Welcome back to the Geometry Unit 2 test prep video. This is part 2. I'm Mr. McWhorter, and let's get started. On number 5, we need to fill in the missing statements and reasons in this proof. We're given that BC, segment BC, is congruent to segment DC, and that angle A is congruent to angle E. And we need to prove that segment AB is congruent to segment ED. So, in step 1, the statement is segment BC is congruent to segment DC and angle A is congruent to angle E. So why can we say that? Because that information is given. So next, step 2, what statement would we say if the reason we're saying it is that vertical angles are congruent? Well, our vertical angles are here and here. Remember, vertical angles are straight across from each other. So we can say that angle ECD is congruent to angle. Now we started with E, so we have to start with E is on the long leg here. So when we do the lower triangle, we need to start on the long leg also. So this is going to be our angle ACB. And that's because vertical angles are congruent. Now number 3 is, what would we say is our statement if the reason is the angle-side postulate? So I'm going to go angle-side, angle-side. So what does an angle-side postulate tell us? It tells us that two triangles are congruent. So we can say that triangle ACB is congruent to triangle. See, we started with ACB, so we're going to have to start with ECD. ECD. And that's by angle-side. And then the final statement is that segment AB is congruent to segment ED. And why can we say that? We can say that because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. For similar triangles, we need to figure out in this picture, we know that triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF, and we want to use a proportion with sides AB and DE to find the scale factor of triangle ABC to triangle DEF. So it's either going to be 12 over 18 or 18 over 12. And we need to figure out which one of those that we're going to use. Well, both of these fractions reduce by 6. So if we were divided the top and bottom by 6, we would get 2/3. And then if we did 18 over 12, that would be 3 over 2. And then the question we need to ask is, we want to do triangle ABC to triangle DEF. And we want, when we multiply it by the scale factor, it needs to get smaller. So if we're taking a measurement from triangle ABC, like 18, and multiply by something to get 12, which one of these are we going to multiply by? Well, multiplying by 2/3 would make it smaller. Multiplying by 3 over 2 would make it bigger. So we're going to use the 2/3 because that'll make it smaller. So our scale factor is 2/3. Now we want to use that scale factor and a proportion to find the length of segment EF. Well, segment EF is corresponding to segment BC. So we can do 21 times the scale factor of 2/3 equals the length of segment EF. Okay, so 21 times 2 is 42. So that's 42 divided by 3. And 42 divided by 3 is 14. So the length of segment EF is 14. We also need to find the length of DF. Well, DF corresponds to AC. So 15 times 2/3 will give us the length of segment DF. 15 times 2 is 30. 30 over 3 is 10. So DF, the length of segment DF is 10. And now we have one more proof to look at, and we need to fill in the missing statements and reasons. We're given that segment BD is perpendicular to segment BC, so BD is perpendicular to BC, and that BD is perpendicular to AD. We're also given that angle A is congruent to angle C. So let's look at the proof. First, they give us the given statements and say it's because they're given. Then they say that the measure of angle DBC is 90 degrees and the measure of angle ADB is 90 degrees, and that is because of definition of perpendicular. Then they say that angle DBC is congruent to angle ADB, and that's because of definition of congruent angles. That's why they had to say they're both 90 degrees, because the definition of congruent angles is they have the same measure. Then we say that segment BD is congruent to segment BD. That is the reflexive property. Just like BD looking at itself in the mirror and seeing its reflection. And then, so now we can say that BD is congruent to itself. And now the reason that they give for step 5 is angle, angle, side postulate. So angle, angle, side, and angle, angle, side tells us that we're using it to show that triangle ADB is congruent to triangle. So you started with A, so the corresponding point is C. So I'm going to have to go C and then to the right angle, and then so CBD. And then what's our final statement? Well, the final statement has always got to be the thing you want to prove. So we want to prove that segment AB is congruent to segment CD. And the reason we know that is because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I hope this helps you on the test, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.